So, in honor of Final Destination 6 coming out in a few months, I recently rewatched the entire franchise and now I kind of just want to talk about it, give some of my thoughts, opinions, and basically I'm just gonna rank all the current Final Destination movies from, in my opinion, like worst to best. But again, this is just my personal opinion, and it might be completely different to yours. Final Destination is one of my favorite horror franchises. I really enjoy watching it. I really enjoy rewatching it. So yeah, I'm quite excited for six. I hope it's good. Start off with ranking. So with my personal least favorite, this one's probably not really going to be a surprise to anyone. It's most people's least favorite, and that is the Final Destination, aka Final Destination 4. So I would say there's a lot about this movie that just really doesn't work for me. First of all, I think the characters are basically nothing. We don't get to really find out anything about them as people, or their personalities, or their relationships, or anything. They're kind of just there, and there's not much of a development of them as characters either. It feels like they're just there to be killed. And so, as a result, there's not really anything to connect to. There's no characters that I'm like rooting for or that I want to survive. I'm kind of just waiting until they all die. I will also say I think the acting is not very good. I don't want to fully blame the actors for this because, as I said, the characters are not well written, and I do imagine that maybe if the characters were better written, the acting maybe would have been better too. Now, you could try to argue that, it's a Final Destination movie, who cares about well written characters? People are here to see people die in creative ways. For one, I will say, the other movies have had somewhat better character writing, and again, then you have someone to root for that you kind of want to survive. But even if we ignore the characters, even if, let's say you don't care about the characters, you just want to see people die. First of all, there's the CGI. This is also a pretty common complaint about Final Destination 4, but the CGI is pretty terrible. I actually think it's worse in the visions that the main guy experiences. They feel kind of random, and it just seems like he just has random flashes of just random flashes of random stuff around, and the visions literally look like fucking early video game graphics. They look terrible. The deaths mostly use CGI as well, so they're also not very good. Another problem I have with the death scenes in Final Destination 4 is that they're just not very well made. The other movies really show you every detail of what could go wrong, and they really build that tension for quite a while before the characters die. Well, in Final Destination 4, that doesn't really happen, and that tension is barely there for basically all the scenes. Even when they try to add some tension, it's too brief and it's not very well done in my opinion. So it feels like you're not really watching a scene, bracing yourself for the worst to happen. You kind of just see those characters die, and as a result, the death scenes are just kind of unsatisfying. The death doing its weird bullshit is part of the fun for Final Destination as a franchise, and it feels like Final Destination 4 just doesn't really have it to the same extent as the other movies do. Another problem I have with Final Destination 4 is that I don't think the other movies have this problem, is the opening scene itself. So in every other movie, you start off kind of getting to know the characters at least a little bit. You get somewhat of an idea of who they are as people, and then, those big dramatic deaths happen. Well, in the fourth one, you kind of already just start at the racetrack, and you already start with the scene where they're going to die. So as I said, you don't get to know anything about the characters at all, really. It's the opening as well kind of just feels shorter and less satisfying. I think what they should have done is maybe have It opened with the characters traveling to the racetrack, maybe by car or they're walking or something, and then, with the four characters like talking to each other, you could get more of an idea of who they are as people and what their relationships are. And then maybe for some of the side characters, you could have, I don't know, someone in a car whizzing by, driving past the speed limit and being really rude. And so, like, you already kind of know a little bit more about that character just from that one little scene. Just those small little interactions like before, like a racetrack accident would have really added to the movie, I think. I guess another thing I kind of wonder is how many people are really scared of racetrack accidents? Because the other movies, I mean, the characters die in a plane crash, on a roller coaster, in a car accident, which generally are pretty common fears, and they're all also situations that you can't like easily get out of. Whilst with the event that they're going to, you kind of can just leave. And so, I don't know, it just feels less scary to me because if I was in, like if I was in a plane and I started noticing some shit, there was nothing I can do. But if I'm in like an event like that and I start noticing shit, I can just get up and go. So that tension again, like it's not as scary. So I don't know, a lot of those things I think make the opening just not very effective. The one positive thing I will give Final Destination 4 is the scene where one of the characters gets his organs sucked out of his ass. It's like the most memorable death from this movie to me, and I kind of love it, and I love how ridiculous and stupid it is. I do think the chaos towards the end can also be quite fun. So I don't want to say that there's like nothing watchable in this movie, but it's very weak and overall it's not good. I don't like this movie at all. Next up, we've got Final Destination 2. So Final Destination 2, first of all, is massive improvement over the fourth one. Like to me, I would say 1, 2, 3, and 5 are like here, whilst Final Destination 4 is like way at the bottom. But mostly, I just find Final Destination 2 to be a bit boring. I do like some of the death scenes. I especially have always liked the one where that one guy gets cut in free. And I do think the opening scene is really, really good. Still, like, to this day, every time that I see a truck with, like, a log truck, I always think of Final Destination 2 every single time. And I do also like the sort of fake out at the start, because, you start with knowing the Beverly and her friends, and so you think, oh, Beverly and her friends are gonna survive, and then you're gonna see them get killed one by one. But no, her friends die. I do like that. I do like that you end up following a bunch of strangers instead. I like the idea that they go for where the characters would have died if the characters from the first one would have died in the plane crash. I think it's a very interesting idea, but I do wish it was explored a little bit more. Similar thing with the whole thing of that one lady who was supposed to give birth, and originally she was like they thought that she was gonna die, but then turns out no, she would have survived. Like, you know, if she gave birth to a baby who wouldn't have been born, then like, oh, they would all be saved. I feel like that's such a like again, it's a really interesting idea. I just don't think it's I think that both of those ideas just aren't executed the best, and I almost wish they were explored a little bit better, a little bit more. Yeah, I also think they did my girl Clear a bit dirty. Her death should have been better and more impactful, considering she's the only surviving character from the first one. I also do wish she had a bit of a bigger role, maybe, or something. It feels, I don't know, she feels a bit cast aside to focus more on Beverly and the cop guy. Yeah, as I said, for the most part, I just think this movie is kind of boring. There's enough elements for me to like it overall, but at times it just feels like it kind of drags on, and you don't always get that sense of urgency for the characters to really save themselves. So, yeah, to me, Final Destination 2 feels like it's a movie that has a lot of potential and it's close to being really good, but it doesn't always fully get there. So it's alright, but it's not really the movie that I usually tend to want to rewatch when I feel like rewatching a Final Destination movie. So next up is Final Destination 5. I actually really, really love this movie. Some of the effects look kind of bad, but I think overall, this is a really good Final Destination film. For one, I'm always glad to see Tony Todd back. He didn't appear as Bloodworth in the third one, but he did voice the roller coaster devil, and I'm pretty sure he also voices the like train stops as well. He isn't in the fourth one at all, I'm pretty sure, like not even to voice anything. And as Bloodworth, he's only in the first and second one. So I'm glad to see him return as that character again in the fifth one. I love Tony Todd. I think he's great. I've heard that he does have a role in the sixth one as well. So, which like I guess that does seem like it will be one of his last roles, because he did like recently pass away. Uh, but I'm glad that he's gonna be in the sixth one. So I can't say I care too much about Molly and Sam as a couple. They're fine. They're kind of there, but I do like that you get to see like a decent dynamic between all the co-workers after the bridge collapse. I also find Peter's character very interesting to watch. So like in Final Destination, they play with the idea that if you kill someone, you get their life and that death skips you entirely. So I do enjoy seeing Peter kind of depressed after Candace dies and grappling with the idea of whether he should kill someone or like who should he kill. I think the actor also does a really good job at portraying that. So I really like that idea a lot. The death scenes in this are really good for the most part as well. I especially love Candace's death scene, and like no matter how many times I have seen this movie, I always find it a little difficult to watch that tiny little nail on that little gymnast board, and as Candace almost keeps stepping on it, it's like it. I've seen that movie so many times, but every time that scene comes up, I have to just like tense up a little bit, even though I know what's coming. Also, because of this movie, I will never consider laser eye surgery. I'm sure it could help me. I mean, I do need glasses. These are prescription glasses. But I feel like if I ever got laser eye surgery, I would just be thinking about this movie the entire time. And of course, I can't talk about Final Destination 5 without also talking about the ending. I remember the first time I watched this movie, I didn't see that ending coming at all. I know that there's like little hints and clues, but I didn't see them. And so I was so surprised. I would genuinely do anything to be able to see that ending for the first time again. I loved it so much, and it's definitely like my favorite ending in the whole franchise. Now, for my second favorite, it's actually the first Final Destination movie. Obviously, it's iconic. The scene of the plane exploding is so memorable and brutal. I really enjoy the characters and their dynamic, especially Alex and Clear. There's a lot of very memorable death scenes in general. They're really well made, and I love the sort of late 90s vibe of the movie as well. But yeah, I think I don't know if there's really much new I can say about this movie. Honestly, like it's a really popular movie, and it spawned an entire franchise for a reason. The idea is so interesting and so good. I think I like the characters. I love the death scenes. It's all just really, really well made. I think my favorite death scene has always been Todd's. It is quite simple, but I find it to be really effective, especially when his eyes sort of turn red and he's like struggling to pick himself up, but he keeps slipping. So it always kind of gets me and freaks me out a little bit. But I also like the quicker ones too. Before I watched the movie, I did get spoiled on the bus scene, so I kind of knew that was coming, but I didn't expect Billy's, I think the character name was Billy, death with the train, so that did surprise me more, and I really like that scene as well. I do think maybe like some of the character dynamics, specifically with Carter, could have been a little better established, as when they're in Paris at the end, I've not fully gotten the idea that Carter has become very close friends with Cleo and Alex, but it's not really a big complaint or anything, and I definitely can see them, growing closer after surviving such a traumatic event, and also, them being classmates and deciding to go to Paris together since their classmates couldn't. I know that originally there was a different ending for this movie, but I do like the ending that we ended up getting, and yeah, it's just a great movie overall. I really do enjoy Final Destination, the first one, a lot. So, only one is left for my favorite, which obviously is Final Destination 3. So, with Final Destination 3, it's like, objectively, I can't say is better than the first one, but I enjoy it a lot more. For one, I do love the characters looking for clues in the photographs. I think it's a really fun idea, and as an audience member, it also kind of like makes me want to search for clues a little bit, along with the characters. I also really like the relationship between Wendy and Kevin and how they go from sort of only really being friends because Wendy was, because of Wendy's boyfriend, to them actually genuinely becoming close friends because of this. They're well acted and very like believable in that situation that they would grow closer. The deaths in this one as well are, to me, like some of the best and most memorable in the whole franchise. I think the tanning bed scene is probably my favorite death scene in the whole franchise in general. It's like the whole movie could be terrible, but if it would have that one scene, I would love it. I would love the movie. But I think the other death scenes are really good as well. I really do like the opening a lot. I can't say that I'm like super scared of roller coasters, but the bigger ones do kind of freak me out a little bit. I do get kind of scared going on those. So to me, the opening is very effective, even if some of it doesn't really make sense. It's quite effective. I also like the scene where Aaron dies and how they keep sort of narrowly avoiding one possible death only to land on another. It's quite I really enjoy these death scenes. The ending as well is obviously like incredible, and I like the end, not the like final train scene, but the one where they're at that whole event and essentially they're just seeing everything that could possibly kill them. It's really effective. Honestly, the side characters in this movie as well are very memorable, and I feel like you get a good sense of who they are as people. Obviously, they do make them quite different from the main crowd. Like Ian and Aaron are kind of like an emo couple, and then Ashley and Ashlyn are like the complete opposite of that. And I like that because you get to really find out who these people are very, very quickly and get like an idea of like what the characters are like. The acting in this movie is also really good. I mean, I think Mary Elizabeth Winstead is acting as though she's in like Oscar potential movie and not Final Destination 3. I don't know, I think her acting is really good. I also just in general, I think the acting in this movie is really, really good, which is why I think watching the third one and then watching the fourth one, it feels like you're watching two different movies because the acting in the fourth one really is just so much worse. So maybe it would have been less noticeably worse if it didn't come after the third one. Anyway, honestly, this movie is just so much fun, in my opinion, and that's why I love it. It's not perfect, and I'm sure if I really wanted to, I could come up with a bunch of I could find more flaws with it and like within the writing and stuff, but I don't want to do that. I enjoyed this movie a lot. I think it's really fun, and yeah, I really enjoy rewatching Final Destination 3. My only complaint is that I think Frankie should have had a worse death. So yeah, that's my whole ranking of the franchise. As I said, I'm really excited for Final Destination 6. I am trying to keep my expectations more sort of in the middle. Mainly, I just hope it's better than the fourth one, and I hope they at least use more like practical effects for the deaths. And I also hope that the death scenes are decently tense and you see, a lot of death's bullshit and they're not like too quick. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Final Destination franchise. If you, person watching this, have any like opinions you want to share about this franchise, I'd love to hear them. So yeah, thanks for watching.